Howdy yo and welcome to Rauta's Non-Metal Sunday. That is, these albums today are no metal at all. In case you're only interested in about metal albums, then feel free to skip this one. Instead of metal music, we have a couple of albums which are interesting choices of styles. First of all, we have a Slackbird from Finland, released on 19th of March 2021. And Hämärään, it seems, is their third album. This one is supposed to be some kind of punk folk, I think was the description of this one. I'll soon tell you more. And then we have Anneke van Giersbergen, latest album, The Darkest Skies Are the Brightest. This one was already released in February 2021. And that was more or less acoustic music with... Anneke's vocals. But first, let's go into the world of Slackbird and the CD. This is a rather peculiar case because it's not exactly something that you have probably ever heard before, or not likely anyway, not in big numbers, because the style of music which is described as folk punk or punk folk, I don't know in which order, does make more sense. It's kind of a music that doesn't really apply to many bands out there. This is all Finnish, so obviously it doesn't make much of a sense in case you don't understand Finnish. And as you can see, any tracks all in Finnish once again. Now, some of these tracks don't make much of a sense, but there is, for example, a video track for a couple of these songs, I think number 2 and number 5 at least, which have some kind of explanation what's going on. Like, this is about twerking the beast, basically, and it is explained there what that actually means. And then we have this booklet with some lyrics included. There is no band photo as such, but at least on the most sides of the band there is feature of 3 members, and I'll just tune in for that. And this is how it's supposed to look like. 2 ladies and 1 gentleman, and they have these chips and dips and, soft drink where that song is, suggesting. And there you have these singles which you can listen to. For some reason, there is still not this album out there, but anyway, you can just check it out on streaming services, I guess. Or maybe it's just not out yet because it's actually one day before the actual release date. And then we have this Anneke van Giersbergen album, The Darkest Skies Are the Brightest, which is supposed to be a release, 41 minutes, 11 tracks of her time with having trouble, which is personal life and also funding the album. So I guess it's kind of a therapy work in that sense. Maybe some people are disagreeing with me. I'm not bold enough to claim that I know all the facts. These are just the things which I read about this album from a review written by my colleague, and just some random pointers. Obviously, this one also comes with a booklet featuring lyrical content and a greeting from Anneke. And this is way too bright if, somehow the light is just, not being able to pick up all these rather white pages. So bear with me. But then again, if you really need those lyrics, you can probably Google them up, or then you will find a site featuring them. But anyway, just give you a little bit of glimpse of what is inside. Now, indeed, some of these tracks or pages are in fact way too white and bright given the sunlight coming from the springtime sun. And also what we have here is a Anneke's homepage here to just give you a little bit of information about, for example, this virtual experience related to that starting next week, and some tour info regarding which might or might not happen. I don't know. COVID situation in individual countries, and obviously you will find those links to her music, her bands, that is. You will find all the necessary information here, as well as the web shop for buying the merchandise. But let's go back to Slackbird and talk about the music. Like I said, this is like a punk folk, which sounds kind of weird, but what it is in essence is this kind of a soft punk rock. The emphasizing more of the softer side. That is, this is not very greasy, sleazy, snotty. It's in fact quite easy to listen to, something that you can pretty much hear on the radio. Everything is finished, and the mood depends from more, say, happier tunes to a little bit darker, but it's not really dark. Let's be honest about it. It's not raw, sleazy, or anything like that. Nothing dirty here, basically. But not necessarily every song is very good mood song either. Some of them are definitely all that, given the kind of a folky mood. Where this gets a little bit strange, or at least unusual, is the use of banjo, accordion, and then we have some cellos here, acoustic guitars and all that stuff, mouth harp, or I don't know if it's actually mouth harp. But anyway, what we have here is basically very banjo and accordion oriented music with, clean finished singing. And while some people, this is very, very good ways to, get wasted and all that stuff, for some people it's just way too weird. I mean, it's not really folk music and it's not really punk music, but it's definitely combining these elements to two. And I can only imagine what kind of flavor for music, what kind of stuff you want to go with your music to enjoy this one. Definitely, I can kind of suggest to people who want something different. I'm kind of bound to say, kind of a hipster stuff, if you will. Some of these lyrics, just for Finnish ears, pairs of ears, sound quite stupid and annoying, where some of them are just pretty neutral. In case you can just ignore listening to the vocals here, well, it gets a little bit easier. And obviously, if you can't just understand what's going on. So, given with that, that's the kind of a story with the album. It's not bad, but it's not really good either. I couldn't enjoy it almost at all. But I'm not going to say it's horrible because it's just something different. What we have here with the Anneke album, then again, is very much a acoustic kind of album with violins and all that stuff. But let's be honest about it. This is a music that kind of goes under the background. Basically everything here lives or dies with Anneke's vocals, which are then again as soft as ever. I mean, I really love her very, very beautiful way of singing, her very, very sweet tone. Her sound is just like honey. It's just great. But once again, this kind of album proves that it doesn't matter how good a singer you are. It doesn't matter how good vocals you do. If the songs don't gonna cut it, if they're not gonna cut it, you're just in for not so good treatment. Now, I know this already. This is an album that divides people into basically two categories. Some people are saying like, whatever Anneke does, it's just perfect, like 10 out of 10 kind of stuff. Well, close enough anyway. Some people are just praising like, oh, it's so wonderful. Her voice is so sweet. And it is indeed. But the songs, man, could they be any more boring than this? I mean, they're not ugly. They're not horrible. They are not, annoying. But they are as boring as it can come, really. There's some goofier parts, like this song this about car. This I Saw a Car, which kind of reminds me of a very old Pink Floyd song. I think it's from the 60s, what's it called, Bike? It's kind of a goofy. And it's supposed to, I guess, cheer you up. But it was more like a, why? Why are you doing that? And the point here is, I really can't, get anything out of this album except Anneke's great vocals. So, very, very mediocre output as a result, because it's just like, I don't know, very much reminds me of that Evergrey vocalist who also did a similar kind of thing. I mean, I like the vocal style a lot. I mean, he has great style, how to deliver these emotions and everything. But when it comes to songwriting on that solo album, the Dark Skies or whatever it was called, Silent Skies, something like that. I'm just bringing these Darkest Skies because of this album. And it was more like, okay, this album is lacking songs, even though it has great vocals. And the same thing is happening here just now with Anneke and vocals. Very, very beautiful. Both are really beautiful, but really, really boring songs. So I don't know which kind of audience this is meant except for Anneke fans. I doubt that this will get any new fans with this style, but maybe I'm wrong. I hope to be wrong. I don't want to be the negative guy saying that because I don't like this album, nobody else should. I mean, if I could, I would just love both of these albums and I would be just like happy. But to be honest, I felt more like I was wasting my time giving these two a listen. So now to the DUEL part of the review. If I had to choose which one to go with, I mean, if there was absolutely no choice but to pick one of these for a soundtrack, you know, when like driving or working, I would definitely choose Anneke over Slackbird, because this is one step closer to being horrible, while this is just neutrally boring. But I can't really recommend either of these. I would say just pick any other review from my channel and you're likely to get a better album. Of course, there are a couple of worst ones, but now at least you know what I think about these. Feel free to spend the hate, or more like, I hope you like them. So that's it. Have a nice Sunday and see you soon next week.